Lindenfels for many years was the works manager's residence. It is the name of a small town in Germany. It is part of the history that we have here, and it's something that maybe Wollongong people aren't too aware of, that this house actually is here.
Entering this historic home is a step back in time. Each black and white image a snapshot of a fledgling steel industry blasting its way onto the Illawarra's landscape. The humble beginnings shown here of a township, including some early streets.
So this is probably one of the more interesting photos, a panorama of what the area looked like just before the steelworks opened in 1928. Steeltown Heights Estate. That suburb was to become Kringilla. So this photo was taken roughly up in the area where Kringilla Public School is now.
A time capsule showing the glow of an economic and cultural melting pot. A blast furnace, powerhouse and a boiler room, the early foundations of what was to come.
The blast furnace, when it was first built, was bigger than the two that were at Newcastle at the time. It was one of the biggest, maybe the biggest in the British Commonwealth. It shows a little bit of foresight from the people who took the photo, thinking that, well, one day this is going to be a lot bigger than it actually is now, and that's turned out to be the case. This one here is probably of most interest. It shows the beginnings of what we call the hot strip mill. And the hot strip mill probably, and I think BHP itself said at the time that this was BHP's greatest ever achievement to build this hot strip mill. And that massive expansion also meant there were a lot of people came to work here. And we all know the stories about migrants and people from all over Australia coming to work here.
Lured to the region by high-quality coking coal in the escarpment, a seaport and close proximity to the Sydney market. Forefather of the operations, Charles Hoskins, staking a claim.
So Charles unfortunately didn't see the start of his steelworks. He passed away before that, but his sons, Cecil and Sid, made it happen.
The two brothers bringing their father's dream to life. And so was born Australian Iron and Steel, the beginnings of a long line of men of steel.
These are photos of all the people who have been general managers at the steelworks at one point in time, and they will be names that will be familiar with a lot of people in the Illawarra. George Edgar was the very last general manager to live here at Lindenfels. He was the first Wollongong born and bred general manager at the steelworks here as well. And he was one of the very first students studying on behalf of BHP at the time at the Wollongong University College. And you might appreciate that each one has a story of their own, and they were here during sort of good times and bad times, and each one of them had probably a different sort of management philosophy as well.
Each writing their own chapter.
Some of these decisions were very hard decisions that these managers would have had to make, sometimes closing down whole departments or whole areas, but at the same time opening up others, all of which tend to have had an impact on the community from time to time.
This has been Craig's life for 5 decades.
And I know personally that it's given me a great career and a great outlook for the rest of my life. This is a particularly interesting photo. It shows a close-up of what you can see in the panorama on the other wall.
His profession becoming his passion.
We're hoping this is actually a good facility that we can host people when we recognise 100 years on site. And 100 years is important to us because there's a lot of people here that are very proud of the history of the place. We're hoping this will be a focal point in 2028 when we recognise 100 years of iron and steel making here in the Illawarra.
Michael Pignataro, WIN News.